Let me start by defining privilege. So I'll ask our panelists to maybe give your definition of privilege. How do we define privilege?
Privilege is having the access to things, for example, having access to a good education, having access to good health care, having access to parents in the home and being able to get the support. Privilege is so much more than just being able to have a later curfew at 1 o'clock in the morning. Privilege is being able to grow up with no limitations in your ability to seek the quest that you have. If I want to be a doctor, I can grow up and be a doctor with no limitations. And so privilege is that the ability to live with no limitations.
I would say for me personally, it's as you mentioned earlier, it's perspective. So perspective for me, as a white woman, obviously sitting on this panel, I feel very privileged to be here. And my privilege here is actually happens to be my opportunity. But my privilege is also my perspective of the world around me and what I see as perceived, whether it's inherent in my birth and the color of my skin and my socioeconomic background. But my privilege is not just the lack of barriers, but it's what's been bred into my subconscious because those barriers were not put before me and how I see the barriers that may or may not be part of my lifestyle that I'm putting up before other people and not truly being aware that I'm complicit in creating barriers where barriers should not exist.
A mother from Ghana and a father from Guadalajara, Mexico, who neither one of them were educated. I love my mother, and I've told this story to other people. I love my mother, but she gave me, I knew exactly what I wasn't going to be because she gave me that example. So I had only one other choice, to be the best that I could be. So I got the education, was smart enough to join the military and made them pay the education back, you know, and I've never looked back. And so as a result of that decision, my children have never had to worry about if there was a roof over their head, food in the refrigerator, lights on, any of the things that we consider privileged in this country, you know. And I will be the first to tell you, having had the pleasure of building in 119 countries, because I'm a civil engineer by trade, serving with the Corps of Engineers in the Army, America is the best country on the face of this earth. And no, I know you don't take that personal. I'm just saying, every place I've ever been, when I come home, I'm happy because I'm home, because this is a privileged country.
In my position as a punter and place kicker, opportunities many, many years ago, those opportunities have not forwarded themselves to young African American punters and place kickers in HBCU colleges and institutions. Because let me tell you something, on fourth down, they don't throw it out. They kick and they punt. We got one African American punter in the National Football League, and that was a kid from Georgia Tech, that's now punting with Pittsburgh. There's a kid that led the league 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Marquette King. He can't even get a sniff in the National Football League. He was an all-pro punter. So come on, give me a break. Even though you might, and we made some tremendous strides in the NFL, but there's still some spots that there's some dirty doo-doo. Okay, I'm just gonna call it like it is. Now, whether it's purposeful or just, that's just my take. I do believe that that's a great word. I heard compassion, I heard love, but I was having a conversation earlier with Ms. Baker, and the word that we talked about that's gonna bring all of us together is humanity. If we look at a person's humanity versus the color of their skin, because let me tell you something, you talk about sports being, giving us the opportunity. Sports gives you the attention. But see, when I take my jersey off, regardless of where I am, I'm just another black man. See, if you use the jersey, it gives you the attention, it gives you the opportunity, but what is the message are you saying? What are you using? George Floyd could have been any one of our players on the street. We all have stories. And until we look at a person's humanity, and that cop did not look at George Floyd's humanity. He saw something that maybe was in the back of his mind, the laws of first truths. And David, that's what you had to deal with when your father didn't allow your teammate to come into the house. So maybe he had to deal with something that his father told him. So until we look at humanity, we're still going to struggle. And I applaud RISE, and I applaud all of the organizations, but until we can look at humanity, we're going to have a heck of a long way to go. Yeah, and it's Matthew 17:20. It says if you can have the faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. And it's going to take that, because we all going to have mountains in our lives. And if whichever side, wherever you stand from a faith perspective, use that mustard seed to move injustices. Move that mustard seed to move privilege. Move that mustard seed for the abuse of power. Use the mustard seed for humanity. And until that happens, we'll continue to struggle.